Good morning, my dear students. In this video, I would like to continue with the chapter Going Local. This is an essay written by Helena Norberg Hodge. In this essay, she talks about the importance of moving away from global systems of commerce to that of local. She begins the essay by discussing some of the major challenges that we face globally. Problems like global warming, toxic pollution, species extinction, terrorism, fear are some of the problems that we face globally. The global media often tells that we human beings are the cause of all these problems. It's our greed that affects this humanity in general. We need to change our consumer habits. That's what we often hear. But she says that when you analyze these problems in a deeper way, when you go in detail, we find that one of the driving forces of our problems is the result of corporate-led globalization. In her opinion, instead of addressing this issue individually by adopting a different style of living or an individual tackling these problems, we need a collective effort. We have to join hands with others. She suggests localization as an important method to tackle the problems created by corporate-led globalization. Well, what do you mean by localization? Localization is essentially a process of decentralization. It is shifting away from global forms of business to that of local. That is, instead of concentrating all the business activities to mega corporates, localization gives importance to local business. It gives opportunities to local businesses, local initiatives. She gives an example of food. Since food is something that everybody needs everywhere, every day, if we adopt localization in the production of food, it will have a direct impact in terms of social, economic, and environment levels. Well, what do you mean by local food? Local food is the food that we produce for local and regional consumption. What are the advantages of local food? It will have, as I mentioned, it will have economic, social, and environmental benefits. Now take a look at the environmental benefits of local food. When you go for local food instead of global food, it reduces food miles. What do you mean by food miles? Food miles means the distance that food takes to reach from the center of production to that of the people who consume it. When you adopt local food as a culture, you can reduce food mile. In other words, when you reduce food miles, it reduces fuel consumption and also pollution. So it will have a direct impact on the environment. This is point number one. Local food reduces food miles. In turn, it reduces fossil fuel consumption and that of pollution. Number two, it creates an opportunity to diversify. When you look at the global market, when you produce for global market, we find that the global markets often prefer monocultural production. It means cultivating a single crops in a large scale. There are some major environmental problems that it causes. It badly affects the capacity of land. It affects the natural quality of land. It creates, since we know that when you produce to a great extent, we need to use machinery to a great extent. As a result, it leads to soil erosion. So when you try to diversify, the farmers get a chance to use organic methods. They can give up the use of big machinery. So in that way, it also affects the land. The crops are much more better. Vacation helps the farmer to use organic methods, and the crops are far more susceptible to pest infestations. So in other words, the land that we use can be used effectively. So the point number 2, when you go for localization in terms of food, it gives the farmers the opportunity to diversify, and it helps the land to remain better. Systems have economic benefits as well. Most of the money spent goes directly to the farmers and not to the middlemen. Instead of using heavy machinery for a large scale production, we can employ more farmers. Wages paid to the farmers are spent locally. That will help the local economy to flourish. It will get reinvigorated. So we find that it will have direct economic impact as well. Instead of spending a lot of amount to the machinery manufacturers and oil companies, we can directly pay to the farmers. In that way, it helps the farmers and also the local economy to flourish.